Hello and welcome back to another YouTube video. My name is Canton Little and today I am starting a new series on this channel where I'm going to be talking about books I'm going to read over the course of a month. So this is more popularly known as like what I'm reading in October or what I'm reading in February or whatnot. Pretty much this is a what I'm going to be reading in October sort of video, and I'm going to start doing this monthly so that way you can get an insight on what I'm reading and I can get insight on what you guys are reading. And you know, it's just a way to kind of just be a bit more transparent about what I'm reading. So this is mainly because a lot of people, don't really use Goodreads. Goodreads is my main platform. I used to do Bookstagram, but I'm unsure if I'm still going to be continuing that, mainly because Bookstagram as a platform is not the best use of my creative lens, unfortunately. So I figured this would be a great way to just be more transparent and maybe give you some recommendations on what you should read or what you might want to read, what you might be interested in. And I'd like to hear back from y'all and understand what you guys are reading and just, a little bit of a community building exercise. So without further ado, let's get into the video. So starting off, we have the quintessential Halloween book. As you know, Gothic literature is the best way to go about Halloween. It's the nights are darker and colder and things are not always as they appear. And where better off to start than here with Bram Stoker's Dracula. So I recently got this copy of Dracula just like yesterday or 2 days ago, and Everyman does such a beautiful job with their hardcovers. I absolutely love Everyman. If you need a good classic, Everyman is the way to go. So Dracula, I read it about 2 years ago in the Hardcore Literature Book Club with Ben McAvoy. It was the first time I ever read Dracula. The only other kind of Halloween-ish book I read was Frankenstein. I absolutely loved Dracula. I love it more than Frankenstein. Dracula has a lot of good themes going for it. It has aspects of love and horror, and it's very epistolatory, but it's very engaging, and I absolutely find the characters and the story and the locations quite compelling, especially since part of the events that happen here remind me of my trip in England, and so I look forward to rereading and revisiting this beloved Gothic classic. Next up, we have The Divine Comedy by Dante. It's the Inferno, and this is translated by Mark Musa. This is the Penguin paperback edition. You can see that right here. So Ben McAvoy, Hardcore Literature Book Club, we're reading this, part of the autumnal reading. I've never read Dante. I've had a friend who took a class on Dante while he's in college. He absolutely loved The Divine Comedy. He said it was one of his favorite pieces of literature ever. And so we're going to be reading this together. And so I'm going to encourage you to go ahead and maybe get a copy. If you want to read the whole thing, go ahead. I'm going to start off with volume 1 and just kind of go progressively. For those of you who aren't really familiar with Dante, Dante Alighieri is often regarded as the father of Italian literature. He wrote the Divine Comedy in Italian rather than Latin, which was more common at the time. And Dante's Divine Comedy is a story of descending into hell, going through purgatory, and then finding your way back up to heaven, paradise. Very allegorical, very symbolic from what I understand, and I'm looking forward to really getting into this and understanding how this sort of narrative unfolds. It's kind of on an epic scale, sort of like Paradise Lost or any of the works of Homer or Virgil. And in fact, Virgil does make an appearance in this technically. I'm not really sure if it's the Virgil who wrote the Aeneid or not, but I digress. Next up, we have arguably probably the longest book, and this will probably going to take more than October, and it's Don Quixote de la Mancha by Cervantes, translated by Edith Grossman. This came out in 2003. Like I mentioned in my last video, I had the Everyman library of Don Quixote, which is translated by P.A. Moteau. He's widely regarded as the worst translation of Don Quixote. So I decided that I'm going to go ahead and just get this copy and read it. I know a lot of people say that Don Quixote is one of the funniest novels, if not the best novel ever written. A lot of people hold this in high regard for the symbolism, for the psychoanalytical lens, or just the characterization. And I haven't read Don Quixote, and so I figured this would be a great way to get into it with this translation. I know people recommend the Rutherford translation, but I decided to go with this. Next up, we have a bit of a shorter series, and well, I say series, shorter book, and it's The Warden by Anthony Trollope. Now, when I was in England last year, Trollope was somewhat more talked about than I was expecting, especially in some of the bookstores I went into. People had a high high regard for Trollope. Trollope was a very popular Victorian novelist around the time of Dickens and a little bit later than Dickens. And the Barchester Chronicles is the most popular series that he wrote, and he wrote a lot, kind of like Thackeray. He wrote a lot, and so I figured what best way to get into this than to go ahead and just start reading The Warden. And some people think that this might be the novel that Anna Karenina was reading on the train. Speaking of Anna Karenina, that's going to be a novel that I'm going to be revisiting quite soon. It's been about 2 years since I've read it, and I look forward to kind of doing a bit of a book review on that and kind of getting into that and answering some questions. And maybe I disagree or agree that this was the book that she was reading. Anyway, I digress. Next up, we are going with Charles Dickens' The Pickwick Papers. Now, I mentioned in my last video that I was going to do a Dickens project where I'm going to really just focus on reading all of Dickens over the course of the long term. I unfortunately haven't made a lot of progress on Dickens since our last video because I've been a bit busy. So Pickwick Papers, I'm looking forward to really getting into this. I already love the art style. I mean, Oxford World Classics, good way to go. I also have the Everyman edition here. So I'm going to read it through Oxford World Classics and we'll see how it goes. Next up, I have William Faulkner's Light in August. Now, Faulkner is an author that I've been trying to get into over the past year and a half, and I just recently started getting into him. I decided to go ahead and take the plunge, dive headfirst into Faulkner. Light in August was regarded as the most accessible of his works, according to Reddit and other book sources. A lot of people recommended starting with The Sound of the Fury as well, in case you would just want to get into the good stuff. And I figured I'd go ahead and appreciate Faulkner for what he is, appreciate him in his the most accessible, and I really like it so far. Light in August is quite an impressive story, impressive prose. Definitely a departure from Hemingway, which I'm more familiar with Hemingway. Read a lot of Hemingway in college, and I just finished The Old Man and the Sea quite recently, and so I deeply like Hemingway. I appreciate his narrative style and his prose, and Faulkner is a bit of a difference from Hemingway, and of course both of them are modernists. They are modern authors in the sense that well, Faulkner mostly uses a stream of consciousness when he's writing. It's multiple perspectives, and you can really see the Southern Gothic feel that a lot of people talk about when they talk about Faulkner. So I find that very endearing. Last but not least, I'm recently starting the Shakespeare project. I know Ben McAvoy talks about this, but I've been taking a Shakespeare class for my master's degree, and we had to get this thick tome of Shakespeare. This is the Complete Pelican Shakespeare. Beautiful red cover. Maybe I'll do a book review on this. Quite durable. You can knock somebody out with this if you wanted to. I don't recommend doing that. I want to read Shakespeare in chronological order, and I'm a bit intimidated by that, if I'm gonna be honest. I love Shakespeare. I've read a lot of his plays. I mean, my favorites being Hamlet, King Lear, A Midsummer Night's Dream, and Measure for Measure. I absolutely love The Tempest as well. Just kind of wanting to appreciate Shakespeare as he's developed as a playwright, as an author, as a storyteller, as a creative. And I figured that the best way to do it is by doing the Shakespeare project and just reading it in chronological order, you know, grading the ones I've read based on what I remember and then regrading them. I don't know, it's just something I thought about doing, and it's not my original idea. I mean, really, the person I can credit for this would be either Harold Bloom or Benjamin McAvoy of his own YouTube channel and book club. So Ben, if you're watching, this is my inaugural video on this. I look forward to it. I'm probably going to do a separate video on the Shakespeare project and just kind of like my own twist, because I'm still working out how exactly I want to go about doing it. But Shakespeare is definitely starting this month, and I'm looking forward to it, and hopefully I can get some of you guys into Shakespeare as well. Now, before I end off this video, I'd like to express my appreciation to all of you for sticking around and just watching my videos. I deeply appreciate all of you for support and the kind words. I appreciate pretty much everything about my audience. It's a bit jarring to me that people would be interested in hearing what I have to say about literature or about books. Hearing my own thoughts on this, and it's quite rewarding in a lot of ways, and I'm grateful to you. Other things I'd recommend reading, since I don't have any copies right now, I'd recommend reading The Turning of the Screw. I'd also recommend maybe reading some collections of short stories for Halloween, and also read maybe a Shakespearean tragedy, King Lear, Macbeth, Hamlet, something that just really speaks to you. Of course, next month's going to be full of some good heavy hitters. There's at least 2 that are on my mind right now, but I will talk about that in November. Thank you all for watching. If you like this video, please share it, please leave a comment, and please subscribe. If you want to get other people involved in this community, be sure to just share my channel. I appreciate it. Love just talking about books, literature, philosophy, languages. Thank you all so very much for watching, and I will talk to you guys soon.